Nobody was born poor. It's the habits and the culture they came into. You don't see any of you reading. To read, I tell you to read one verse, you struggle to read it. Why? Because reading is not part of your culture. It's not because you can't read, it's because you are not used to it, so it's difficult. But if you practice, and the sad thing with us is this, because it's difficult, you run away from it, you don't do it. Not knowing that the more you do it, the easier it gets. So most of you run away from reading, meanwhile God says the key to prosperity is reading. How many families do you see want to eat free food? They just believe. How many of them do you see believing that somebody owes them to help them, to buy them food? Do you see those things around you? That's why they are poor. You can't go to a Jewish home and they depend on you, expect you to pay for anything. You can't go into such places and you see them thinking they will get money from you. Rather, they want to give you a gift. They are never thinking about somebody will do it for me. They're always thinking about how do I go and do it myself. That's your habit. Another word for your habit is your culture. So you find that poverty has become cultural. We are living by laws. Those are laws. It's become a culture now. And that's why anywhere you go, you keep seeing the same things because they are behaving the same way. If you keep doing the same thing, you will keep getting the same result. So if you see everybody on the street poor, most likely all of them are behaving the same way, doing the same thing. That's their culture. They wake up in the morning, do nothing, go nowhere, have no focus, have no guide, nothing. But they expect to eat. And they're always blaming somebody for why they are where they are. Yes?
They don't like education.
No education. How many of you have gone to places where there is no education and you see people prosper there? One of the good things you will see for Chisenga to be where he is, saying that is because his parents are educated. And you saw his mom came to give you a testimony of how she changed her own life. Now the child is benefiting from it. The question is, will you do it so your children benefit? Or will you be where you are and your children continue to be like you? That's your challenge. Nobody was born poor. It's the habits and the culture they came into. You don't see any of you reading. To read, I tell you to read one verse, you struggle to read it. Why? Because reading is not part of your culture. It's not because you can't read, it's because you are not used to it, so it's difficult. But if you practice, and the sad thing with us is this, because it's difficult, you run away from it, you don't do it. Not knowing that the more you do it, the easier it gets. So most of you run away from reading, meanwhile God says the key to prosperity is reading. The laws of prosperity are in books. Get into books. Books should be your best friend. If I want to prosper, this is the highway to prosperity, the information highway. I must read. So if I'm not ready to read and I'm not ready to change the way I think, my doing, my behavior, which is doing that you may observe to do, my doing is controlled by my mind, but my mind is controlled by my information. So if all the information I have is the information of poverty that they gave me when I was growing up, then my behavior will always produce poverty. What did God give you in verse 8? The science of it. A lot of you want to do, but you can't sustain the doing because your thinking hasn't changed. So until my thinking changed, my doing won't change. So most people want to change their doing, not knowing that what governs doing is thinking. And what governs thinking is information. So if the information you get from your culture is poverty, then your meditation is poverty, then your doing will be poverty, then you will be poor every day. And it's that culture that tells you, oh, sit down, wait, somebody will do it. Go and ask somebody to give you money. Go and ask somebody to do this. Go and expect somebody to do this. And that culture makes you think that way. And that thinking makes you sit down, do nothing. When they come, they ask you a question, you keep your mouth shut. When they say you keep your mouth shut, you don't know that's a culture. That's a doing. That's a habit. That's what's causing your poverty. And the sad thing is this. People get angry and protective about the doing that is making them poor. Have you noticed ignorant people are very proud people? They get angry so quickly. They don't know that's why they remain poor. Because they can't learn. They block learning. Because they feel ashamed. They don't know that it's simple. Just change it.